Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Lucid Motors and Churchill Capital, aka CCIV, built a house of cards, and I'm going to tear it down. Before we get started, I want to thank the Vasa law firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow, and remind you to check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. T-shirts like Rocket Evolution. Great t-shirts, please check them out. This is my favorite right now. Just a day or two ago, it was announced that Lucid Motors is indeed going to merge with CCIV, a special purpose acquisition company. This has been rumored for weeks or months. The CCIV stock rose up very high, and then after the merger, it collapsed. There was a lot of new information that came out right at the time they announced the merger that was a material change, in my opinion. I want to say this right now. It's my opinion that this whole thing is a fraud. It's an opinion. I'm going to go through the facts that show why I think it's a fraud, and there's a lot of new information that just came out. Are you ready? Let's go. Perhaps the biggest information that came out right after this SPAC merger was announced. Ed Ludlow of Bloomberg reported, after speaking with CEO Peter Rawlinson, that Lucid was delaying production of its vehicles until the second half of 2021. And they would not commit to a start date for production. This is a major change. Before the SPAC merger was announced, Lucid was talking about delivering 6,000 vehicles in 2021, and they were going to start deliveries, not production. They were going to start deliveries in the spring. I personally, if you check my channel, I just did a video where I went to the Lucid store in West Palm Beach, their showroom, talk to people, and even then, less than 2 weeks before this merger SPAC was announced, they were saying deliveries would be in the spring. And you're going to see other things in this video where Lucid was maintaining up to at most a week before the merger was announced that they were going to deliver vehicles in the spring. They were sticking with this 6,000 vehicle story. Now, it's my opinion. Again, these are opinions. I'm not a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, but I'm not a lawyer in this field. When you have been telling people for months, we're going to deliver 6,000 vehicles in 2021, and we're going to start deliveries in the spring of 2021. And then literally an hour after this big corporate structure change that affects shareholders, you change your story. We're going to delay production to the second half of the year. In the slide deck, which you'll see, we're going to deliver 577 vehicles in 2021. This, to me, again, not an expert, this is a material change that, in my opinion, defrauded investors who invested in CCIV. Stock went up to like 60, somewhere in that ballpark, fell to 35 after the announcement. Very likely that this change in production strategy had an impact. Maybe it was other things that had an impact, but this is something that should have a material impact on the stock, and it should have been disclosed when they knew it, not after they do this big change that screws over shareholders. This is Lucid CEO Peter Rawlinson on February 5th, 2021, just a couple weeks before this merger was announced.
You expect to produce 6,000 to 7,000 units this year. Is that correct? And we're talking about where? A starting price for that vehicle around $70,000?
That's absolutely right.
I want to be clear about why this matters. Number one, it's just not right to not disclose something that you should have disclosed. But from a shareholder perspective today, what you can expect is that people who held stock in CCIV before this SPAC merger might talk to a lawyer, and we might see a shareholder class action lawsuit against CCIV, Lucid, whatever it's going to be at the time the lawsuit is filed, that they'll win. My opinion, my guess, there's a really serious risk they're going to lose this lawsuit. It's going to cost them a lot of money that hasn't been accounted for in any of their numbers. Even if they don't lose the lawsuit, they're going to spend a lot of money on it. It's a distraction. This is a big deal. In my opinion, again, this is a big deal. This is a big problem for Lucid. It's a big problem for this merger. This is a mess. This is not the way they should have handled this. Just to show you, this is a document I'm going to be using later in this video for something else, but right here you can see they are now predicting, and this is the slide deck that they just put out at the time of the merger, SPAC merger, that they're predicting now a total volume in 2021 of 577 vehicles. That's a rather big drop from the 6,000 to 7,000 vehicles that they were talking about not very long ago. And you can see it again here, February 16th, right at the bottom of the screen. Lucid Motors aims for spring delivery of its luxury electric sedan. He's on Fox News touting that they're going to deliver in the spring. This is literally a week before. What are the chances he didn't know they were going to delay this at that point, just 1 week before the SPAC merger goes through? I'm going to say that's unlikely. I can't know. I wasn't there when he met with Alan Mulally, but it seems unlikely to me. Alan Mulally is the former CEO of Ford and Boeing Motor, and he's involved with the SPAC CCIV. His story supposedly is that he talked with Alan Mulally, and Mulally said, don't rush it. It was somewhere in the due diligence process. It happened in the last week. That seems dubious to me. They've been talking about this for months.
You've delayed production until the second half of 2021. You said deliveries of Lucid Air would start in the spring. What's behind that delay?
Well, I mean, I was pushing like crazy for spring. And when we met with the Churchill Capital team, and I took Alan Mulally out in the car, and Alan drove the car, loved it, the very first car off the production line. We had a meeting of minds with Alan and all his experience from Boeing, with Michael Klein and myself. We all got on like a house on fire, and we recognized that, well, Peter, why are you pushing like crazy for this sort of almost artificial date in spring? What's really important here is to get the quality right.
Okay, so first of all, apparently the quality wasn't that good. You were pushing to get it out in spring, but you knew the quality wasn't that good. Okay, something's wrong there. This is supposed to be a great vehicle. It's perfect, but it's not going to be ready. But here's the big question Ludlow should have asked. When did you have that conversation with Alan Mulally and Michael Klein? When did you decide to delay production? And why did you wait to tell everyone until after the SPAC merger was announced? This is why I think they're going to face a shareholder derivative class action lawsuit. I could be wrong, but this to me, not the only thing. There's a whole bunch of other things you'll see in this video, but that's one thing that really stands out to me. They were telling people a week before, we're going to deliver 6,000 cars, we're going to start deliveries in the spring, and then an hour after this SPAC merger is announced, boom, we're cutting it back to 577 for the year. We're delaying production until the second half of the year. When did you know? For the rest of this video, I'm going to go through some details from the slide deck and a couple other details and show you what other new information there is that suggests that there's something wrong with the Lucid plan, that these numbers don't add up. Just a really short thing. In the slide deck, there's this display of, I counted 19 high-level employees. This is easily $5 million, maybe $10 million a year in expenses for the company, with an awful lot of jobs for people who aren't doing a whole lot until you have a product. This is really kind of like, okay, you've got a lot of high-level people. This is a sign of a top-heavy organization that's got way too many people making way too much money at the top. It doesn't look like an efficient organization. If you're going to be a startup, you should start up small and lean, and this does not look lean to me. You can decide what you think. Just a small point here.
Many other people are reserving their various Lucid Airs right now. And can you give me a sense of the demand each day?
Well, it's overwhelming, Jim, and I'm really glad you have the impeccable taste, sir. We have a bulging order book. It's growing daily as people are becoming much more aware of us as a company, as a brand. We were pretty silent. We were in almost stealth mode until our global reveal just last September. I like the car to do the talking, and it's going to be an amazing product when it comes out this year.
You see, that's not an answer to the question. We have a bulging order book. No, he asked you how big the order book is, and you didn't answer the question, and then you blathered on for another 30 seconds to a minute, not answering the question. Let's dig a little deeper. So right above my head, you can see that they claimed in the slide deck that was just released, existing reservations already representing over $650 million in anticipated sales. It's odd that they said over and then had a greater sign. This is a little bit careless. There's a couple other things in the slide deck that look a little bit careless. But anyway, $650 million in anticipated sales is the claim. Is that a bulging order book? Let's think about that. Yes, I did a little math. $650 million at $120,000 a vehicle. Remember, the first batch of vehicles is supposed to be $160,000, and the second batch of vehicles is supposed to be $140,000. So $120,000 average selling price is a kind number. Probably $140,000, $150,000 would be closer. you get in the ballpark of 5,000 vehicles reserved. Does that sound like it's bulging? It doesn't sound like it's bulging to me. That sounds thin. And it's reservations, which we don't know how many of these reservations are for the $80,000 vehicle, the $100,000 vehicle. It's not a lot of reservations. Cybertruck has like 1 million reservations as far as we know, right? Cybertruck has got a heck of a lot. That's a bulging order book. 5,000, you're supposed to knock that out this year. You didn't have enough orders. When you were claiming you were going to sell 6,000 vehicles in 2021, you didn't have that many orders for 2021. You were planning to make 6,000 vehicles. Here's possibly the real problem. You're not producing or delivering vehicles yet because you don't have enough orders. And if you produce the vehicles, you won't be able to sell them. That's what's really going on here. Look, this is simple math. You claim $650 million in orders. I divide by a reasonable number. I get about 5,000 vehicles. You said you were going to deliver 6,000 vehicles this year. You don't have the orders. All this fluff, your September reveal, all this other stuff you've done, apparently you didn't get, you got 6 showrooms up and running. And this is what you have to show for it. Not very impressive. Okay, this is another interesting detail from the slide deck. Lucid Motors claims that in 2024, they will sell 90 vehicles. Look at the red circle at the top middle. 90,000 vehicles they claim they're going to deliver in 2024. If you go down from that, the red circle below, they claim they're going to have $9.9 billion in revenue. That means they're going to sell these 90,000 vehicles at an average selling price of $110,000 a vehicle. 90,000 vehicles, $110,000 a vehicle. Here's the problem. The market for vehicles over $100,000 isn't very big, and it's very, very competitive. You're competing with the Tesla Plaid Model S, the Plaid Plus Model S, the Mercedes S-Class, the BMW 7 Series, Porsche. There's a whole lot of competition up there, and there aren't a lot of sales. I was on a Clubhouse talk, and Alex Tourville said he ran the numbers, and Mercedes sold about 79,000 S-Classes in 2019. You can look at Tesla's combined sales of the Model S and the Model X, which should be bigger because they're less expensive than the vehicles Lucid's purporting to sell. Just to be clear, this is the Lucid sedan that they've been showing off and the SUV they claim they're going to develop and release in 2023. That together, somehow they're going to scale this SUV to 49,000 vehicles in 2024 and sell it, right? But the market just isn't that big. The Model S and the Model X together typically sell less than 80,000 vehicles in a year, maybe 60,000 vehicles in a year. They're EVs and they cost less. You're going to sell more than that. You're going to take sales. You got to take sales away from Mercedes S-Class when your premium product is $140,000, right? The Lucid Air Dream Edition is going to be $160,000, but that's a few select customers. But the Grand Touring, which is the premium product that you've been bragging about with the 517 miles of range, it's $140,000. You can get a Plaid for that. You can get a Plaid Plus for that. You can get a Mercedes S-Class for like $100,000. So even if it's competitive, you know, what share of this market are you saying it's going to get? And this is a critical detail. That's 2024. You go out to 2025, and now you're claiming you're going to sell 135,000 vehicles at about $14 billion, so over $100,000 average selling price. You're going to sell all these vehicles. This is a stretch. This is quite a stretch. It's not credible to say that this new company that's never sold a car before is going to, 4 years from now, sell 135,000 cars averaging over $100,000 a year. Think about the competition at that level and think about the size of the market. There just aren't that many people who buy cars over $100,000. I mean, I live in a pretty nice neighborhood, $500,000 houses. There are a few homes in my neighborhood where people are driving $100,000 plus cars, but I live in a pretty high-end neighborhood and it's pretty rare. You have to go to very, very select parts of the country to be able to sell in any volume like this. Mercedes has a sales network all over the world, and they only sold 79,000 S-Classes in 2019. You're not going to have Mercedes sales network by 2024, 2025. And how much of their market share are you going to take? And how much of Tesla's market share are you going to take? How much of BMW's market share are you going to take? It's not reasonable to believe you're going to grab half of the market for these ultra premium vehicles. I'm sorry, it's not a credible claim. Maybe in your dreams you get 5% of that market, and that's nowhere near 135,000 vehicles. You can see here Gary Black, a Wall Street type guy who I previously criticized in a video just the other day. You can see he's critical about Tesla, saying Tesla's, he has his own take on Tesla's market share, what the total addressable market is. He comes up with these numbers that limits what Tesla can sell. But he blindly takes on faith that Lucid is going to be able to sell 90,000 vehicles in 2024. You can see here in the second paragraph here, he says he acknowledges the 90,000 deliveries. He buys the 90,000 deliveries and comes up with a valuation for the stock and gets Lucid stock CCIV to be worth $52 a share today. I'm sorry, Gary, you're full of it. You are not being serious if you believe they're going to sell 90,000 vehicles at $110,000 a vehicle in 2024. This is baloney. I don't know whether you're fooling yourself or you're lying, but that's what I'm seeing. No way you believe that, Gary. No way. Not if you're thinking. Just because they say it in a slide deck? Come on, Gary, you're better than that. I showed you this slide before, and I'm showing it to you again because this is where we get into real problems. You look at the bottom. You look at the bottom of the slide, you can see free cash flow, and you can see that they're going to lose in the ballpark of $10 billion. They're going to be negative $10 billion in cash from 2021 to 2024. That's a lot of cash to blow through. That's assuming that they deliver the vehicles they claim they're going to deliver. You can see right up here at 2024 near the top, you see total volume, basically 90 million vehicles. That's the 90 million vehicles they were talking about. And just above my head, you can see the 135 million vehicles for 2025. If they don't deliver the 90,000 vehicles, then they lose more money. If they don't deliver the 49,000 vehicles in 2023, they lose more money. If they don't deliver the 577 vehicles in 2021, they lose more money. Their negative cash flow at best is $10 billion over the next 4 years. Just in the first 2 years, if all goes as they hope, they lose over $5 billion in cash. That matters. Why does that matter? Let's look at something else. This is page 62 of the slide deck. And I'm showing you this for a second. Look right below my head, and you can see company expected to have $4.5 billion plus existing cash to substantially fund through the committed programs. I'm going to show you this again. You can see here some of the details of the transaction, $12 billion acquisition value, some cash from Churchill Capital, that's CCIV, some cash from the PIPE, that's another part of the transaction. Transaction expected to close in Q2 2021. And then right below that, let me show you this bigger. Company expected to have $4.5 billion plus existing cash to substantially fund through the committed programs. $4.5 billion plus cash. Call it 4.5, call it 5 billion. You're going to blow through that 5 billion in the first 2 years. What are you going to do when you run out of cash? You're going to need more cash. And that's if everything goes well. You might blow through the 5 billion before you finish 2022. And then you got to raise more money, and then shareholders are diluted, or then you're taking on debt. And how long are they going to wait until you become profitable, if you ever do? This is a really, really suspicious set of circumstances. So that's my take on it. I think Lucid's a fraud. There's no way this succeeds. They know it won't succeed. They know they're going to run out of cash. They know they're never going to sell the number of vehicles they say they're going to sell. They know they don't have the orders that they need. They misrepresented how many vehicles they're going to sell, when they're going to sell them. None of this adds up. I've been criticizing Lucid for a while. This is now my 4th video calling them a fraud. My opinion that it's a fraud, not a factual claim. I don't have inside knowledge, but it just doesn't look right. There's a lot more detail I could go into. You check my other videos, I went into more detail. I think the technology is a fraud as well. I have these conversations with people all the time. And one of the frustrating things for me is I talk to other people and they want to believe that Lucid is for real. And I'll ask them a simple question. They claim they're going to deliver a vehicle with 517 miles of range. That's 100 miles more range than the Tesla Model S. In order to believe that, you have to believe they have better engineers than Tesla. In order to believe they're going to deliver a vehicle that performs better than the Porsche Taycan, you have to believe they have better engineers than Porsche. I'm not saying they don't have good engineers. I just don't think they have better engineers than Tesla or Porsche. I think this whole thing is a fraud. My opinion, again, I don't buy it. I am shocked at how many people fall for this. This is as plain as day. This is nonsense. There's no way this is going to work. So you've heard my opinion. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I know Lucid's corporate trolls will be there letting us know how great they are. If you like this video, or if you don't, please check out my other videos. Here's 2 more Lucid videos that you can take a look at. Of course, please support this channel on Patreon, links below. Get the shirts, Rocket Evolution, really cool shirt, my favorite shirt right now. Subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and thank you so much for watching.